When I say I'm 19 and I drive an old Ford, you probably think I drive a Mark 6 or Mark 5 Fiesta. Well, here's mine. My 1998 Ford Escort LX TD. Now, it does have the RS kit on it, but don't let that fool you. It is a turbo diesel, as it says also on the front right here. Yeah, ignore the Mark 5 RS wheels. That little badge there also helps out in another way. Being a diesel, especially a turbo diesel, it makes it very cheap to run. This thing gets about 50 mpg on a long run, or low to mid 40s on a short run. Now, my trip to work and back is about 45 miles, 4 days a week. So this uses about £150 worth of fuel a month. Not bad, not great. Obviously a newer diesel would get a lot more, but this is a 28 nearly year old car. Along the same lines, being cheap to run, I am 19. I have been driving for about 18 months, so I need to think about insurance. Now, if I was to go and buy something like an old Renault Clio or a Polo, it probably would have been cheaper, but I paid just £1,230 a year for this car with all of the mods declared, and I'll get onto those in a minute. Let me give you an overview of some of the features of this car. Being an LX, it is quite a high trim. I don't think it's the top trim, but it does get a fully heated rear windscreen, a set of roof rails that you could put a roof box on, these really quite comfortable and decently supportive cloth fake bucket style, because it's got the same shape, but obviously they're just soft. And one of my personal favourites, it doesn't work, but it does have an analog clock. The reason this doesn't work is that every time that the ignition's not on, it just cycles. And here beneath the gear stick, you'll see it does have power windows and an electric boot release, which does not work. Safety features, you might be thinking, on a 28-year-old car, it doesn't have many safety features. Well, you are exactly correct. It has one airbag, and that is it. I'm not even sure if this has anti-lock brakes. I think it does, but I'm not sure. It does also have power steering, which I absolutely love. I would hate to daily drive a car without power steering. On to now one of my favourite features of this car. It does have a sunroof. Decently sized. You just have to... There we go. Opens that way, and then if we scroll this back the other way, it slides all the way open. And then when you're done with this, it just slots back in there. Lovely nice sunroof, really great for a warm day. Like today actually, it's incredibly good weather for the UK. Another reason why this car is such a good daily is the good usage of space. Now this car might seem quite big, but that's just because it's so low. It's actually only about 10 centimeters longer than a Mark 5 Golf, but it uses that space so much better. Look at all of the room you've got in here, and even going around to the back. Look at that amount of load room. Obviously, ignore the other wheels there, but look at that. Look at that amount of space. That's enough about efficiency and practicality. Let me tell you what's not standard about this car. First off, these are not the standard wheels. I'll put a picture of what they should look like here, but they're not the standard. They're from a Mark 5 Ford Escort RS 2000. I think they look quite good, but I do have the Mondeo SI wheels in the boot, which I'm going to get changed at some point, I swear. Right next to the wheels, you see these side skirts. These are from a Mark 6 Ford Escort GTI estate. The turbo diesel did not come with these in any sense of the word. That's only on the 1.8 or 2 litre GTI engines, but this has them. This spoiler up here, it is a little bit worse for wear. Needs to be repainted or something at some point, but that is also, I think, from a Mark 6 Escort GTI or a Mark 5 RS, one of the two. I think it looks quite nice. I think it gives it a nice extra line at the back, although it would be nicer if it came out a little bit further. And coming down here, you'll have a look at this exhaust pipe. Now this is not standard. You actually have to cut a hole in the bumper for it to fit. That's just a standard 2 1/3, I think is, inch cherry bomb exhaust, and that is mounted to a full stainless exhaust. I'm not sure if you can see it from that. Now to show you the only power mod that this car has had, we need to open the bonnet, and that is under here. I've never seen another car with it under here. It's always either down there or down here on this side. But no, this car is weird. It has it on the bottom of the steering wheel. Now coming under the bonnet and ignoring the quite noticeable diesel leak from the injectors, we'll see the power mod. It's just a new intake. It sounds quite nice. Sounds pretty good for an old turbo diesel, but that's the only thing making this car have probably around 90 horsepower. It's very, very slow. It does make some good intake noise. Let me show you. And it certainly doesn't make a bad noise out of the back either. Let's go for a little drive. This might look completely different to how it was before. This is because I've already recorded this, and I recorded the whole thing in portrait. So don't mind the squeaky brake pedal or the clonking coming from the back. That is most likely from the wheels in the boot. So this car being in overall quite good condition, with only 104,000 miles on it. I bought it at 100,200. You might be thinking it's relatively expensive. No, I paid £1,800 for this car. It had about 4 months MOT. It's just passed its MOT, I think, last month, with 2 advisories. I'll put them up on the screen right now. Honestly, really impressed with it. Yeah, there is a sill that needs a little bit of attention, but that's not a problem. It's just been repaired, not great. Now, it sounds quite nice from the outside, but how does it actually sound from inside the car? Let's see. Overall, pretty nice, I would say. Not sure how much you can hear over the wind noise at the moment. Hopefully enough to make out what I'm saying. Being from 1998, it does have a few more issues than a regular car would, and it's entirely true. I've spent around £1,200 on fixing this car since I bought it in November, and done about 4,000 miles. About £1,200 I've had to get brakes done, alignments, bushings, a suspension arm, and some springs, and I've also had to do have a full service and an MOT. But that still makes it a lot cheaper than a lot of the other cars that I've owned, as I did have a Mini before this, and if you know anything about cars, you'll know how awfully unreliable they are. But honestly, my favourite part about this car is the sense of community. With old cars, everyone brings everyone together. There's not really a hierarchy, as there is with more modern cars, because people are just chasing numbers and chasing more expensive cars. The amount of these are going down every year. It's just not possible to have a hierarchy for these sorts of cars, when for a model like this, an LXTD, there's only 15 of these left in the country. And that makes this car quite special. It might not be expensive or fast or flashy, but it's rare, and it's quite cool, in my personal opinion, because it's still surviving. Lots of these were subject to the scrappage scheme in the mid to late 2000s, I think it was, in the UK. There was a scheme where you could scrap your old cars, typically 80s and 90s cars, and get more than they were worth towards a new car, which resulted in tens of thousands of now classic cars being scrapped for nowhere near as much as they're worth now. Now, this car being from 1998, it may not have faced the same threat of being subject to this scrappage scheme as other old cars, but nevertheless, it's still here. And I don't plan on changing that anytime soon. This car has helped me meet so many people that I would now call my friends, online and in person. And I really can't thank this car enough. And yes, this car does have some strange noises. It definitely needs some looking at. But that gives this car such a sense of character that other more modern cars just can't have. They don't have the sense of wonder and the sense of excitement of, ooh, is my car going to get to work today? Now this always has. Every day that I've taken this to work, it's come back again. Every time that I've brought it back from work, it takes me back there again. It's never missed a beat. But for being 30 years old, and for being an old, lumpy turbo diesel, this thing don't often drive quite smoothly. That sounds quite nice, doesn't it? Every year, more and more of these cars are being scrapped, taken off the road, because they're not worth keeping. But I disagree. I think this is one of the best cars that I've ever bought, if not the best. It's my favourite. It's definitely my favourite one that I've bought. I don't plan to get rid of this anytime soon. And for anyone looking at buying an old Ford, as long as you check the rust, I'd say go for it. I'd say you can't go wrong. Yes, it will cost you money, but every car will cost you money. And I just think this is such an all-round good car. There's no way I couldn't recommend this. It's got problems. I know it's got problems, and I know that there are people that are going to say to not ignore the problems. And no, don't ignore the problems. Because if you do, they're just going to get worse. Most people would look at this car and think, that's old, I'm not buying that. But I think it's a pretty damn good car.